Hey guys, Pogo here, and welcome to episode 1 of A First Look at Sponge. In this series, we're going to be taking a look at the Sponge API, which is an alternative to Bukkit and Spigot as a Minecraft server. The Sponge is under heavy development right now, and a lot of it is subject to change drastically. But I wanted to just start by taking a look at it so we can see how it is in its current state, and I'm sure that a lot of how it is right now will continue as it progresses further on. So this series will function like the Bukkit series. It's going to start off with us getting Sponge set up, and then we're going to write a quick little hello plugin. And then from then we'll continue looking at all of the different components and how it works. I can tell you right now that Sponge is significantly different from Bukkit or Spigot, so even if you know Bukkit or Spigot, you definitely want to watch this video because it's a noticeable difference and it's a little bit difficult to get started. Okay, so the first thing is Sponge does not provide us with any simple downloads. There's no download now link anywhere. But we do have here on GitHub the source of the Sponge project, and we can go down here and see that it tells us exactly how to get Sponge working. Now this is going to take a while, so make sure that you have some time before you watch this, but we need to get Sponge all set up first, and then we can write our plugin. So here's the first part, cloning. I'm going to open up Terminal. You would also use Command Prompt if you were on Windows. I'm going to go over to the desktop, and I'm going to run the first command. Let's hit go, and this is going to clone into Sponge. It's going to download all of the files associated with Sponge and all of the subdirectories, the Sponge common right there, which is actually also another repository, which then of course has Sponge API. So it's going to download all of the stuff that it needs, and it shouldn't take that long. Next, you'll notice I'm on the desktop, and if you look on the desktop, you'll see that a folder called Sponge has been created, and this has all of the files that we need in order to get Sponge ready. So we're going to change directory into the Sponge folder, and then we're just going to do this one line. We're copying this pre-commit into the git hooks. Cool. Now we're done with cloning. We need to set it up. Now it says here if you don't have Gradle installed, Gradle is just a build tool. It automates downloading dependencies and all of that stuff. Gradle, there's actually Gradle right here in Sponge. It comes with it, so we can just use gradlew /gradlew or gradlew.bat if you're on Windows. So first we need to run gradlew setup decomp workspace -- refresh dependencies, and I'm going to hit enter. And of course, if you do have Gradle installed, you could just use Gradle instead of /gradlew or gradlew.bat. But right now, what it's going to do is it's going to set up all of the dependencies and things for Gradle. Now this is going to take a while. I think this is the step that took around 11 minutes for me. It has to download and decompile and compile a ton of files just to get this to work. So I think I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and I'm going to let this run because this might take a while. So we finished with the setup. Now this next part, IDE setup and running, is if you want to actually get this Sponge API or Sponge to work in Eclipse. That would be, if you want to make changes to it and maybe submit them to possibly be included. But we don't want to do this. We only want to use Sponge. So we can skip IDE setup and we can skip running. And now we come down to building. So now we want to actually go ahead and build the API. So all you do is run /gradlew, and you'll see here, ignore that I was accidentally running the wrong command, but you'll see here it'll now actually go ahead and build. So we had to get everything set up in there. Now it's going to actually go ahead and build the jar file that we can use. So this one shouldn't take too long. It seems to be progressing pretty well, but I'm going to pause this while it happens, just so that we can let it run. So that part just finished. It is now built, and it took around 3 minutes. So we're finished with this part here. And let's go ahead and look. We go into Sponge, the Sponge folder, and you'll see all these files. We want to go into Build, and then Libs, and you'll notice 4 things in here. The one we care about is the one that doesn't have a dash. This one's -javadocs, -release, -sources, and this one isn't. This is Sponge 1.8, blah blah blah, dev-0. This is the one that we want. This is the actual Sponge server with the API inside of it. So, java-jar, and I'm going to drag it right in there. So we want to actually go ahead and run our server. Here we go. Oh, so close, but looks like it's not actually going to work for us here. So it says the first thing that we need to do, first of all, Sponge runs on Minecraft Forge. So it says here, we can just simply do this. We want this to be headless. We don't want to have to open a program on our computer in order to start the server. We want to be able to just open up the jar file and have it work. So you'll see we can actually just do this. So it's going to be java-jar, put that in there, and write install. And there we go. It just went ahead and installed everything. And we want to run this. I'm going to copy this to a new directory, and I'm going to call it Sponge Server. So I want to put this in its own directory. And then the second part here, it said you want to go run it. Java-jar, drag that in, and then say run. And okay. It's getting ready to run. Now this is the actual server running right now. So you'll see it does a couple of things here, and then it says launching wrapped Minecraft net.minecraft.server.minecraft server. So now it's actually starting the Minecraft server. And okay. I was actually in the wrong directory when I started it. So let's try that again. I want to actually go to the Sponge server directory, and then I want to run it. Let's try that again. And yeah, I guess I have to install it again because it's in a different directory. That should only take a second. Cool. And we'll run it this time. So I just stuck it in a different directory because I didn't really want to have server stuff mixing in with the Sponge build stuff. So I just copied that jar file in. And you'll see, of course, we did the install thing first that we had to do, and then we just did java-jar, path to the file, and then run. And you'll see here it starts up and everything. It says you need to agree to the EULA and user license agreement in order to run the server. This is the same as in Bukkit or Spigot. You just set EULA equal to true after you read the Minecraft and user license agreement. And then you're going to do Control-C to stop the server because, it's not going to be doing anything. And we want to try running it again. Let's get Minecraft open in the background. And you'll see here that it's going to do all of this tweak stuff. And now it's launching the actual Minecraft server. And here it goes. It's searching for mods. And there it goes. The actual server started. This error is because the whitelist file doesn't exist, so it'll create it. This one's just the ops file doesn't exist, so it's going to create it. And that was banned IPs doesn't exist. It's just all of these files don't exist, so it is going to create them. You don't have to worry about those errors. And there's the world generating just like a normal server, and in 17 seconds, not bad for the very first time we're running it, the server is now live. So let's take a look. We'll go join the server, and you can see that I joined the server, and it indeed showed up right there. Showed that I logged in, and all of that stuff. And you'll see it says right here, server-side vanilla connection established. That's because this is vanilla Minecraft. There's no mods on it or anything. One of the great things about Sponge is that if you use a modded Minecraft client, then you can actually have mods that work on the server part, and a client part. But we'll get to that eventually. So the point is, I'm now on a server that is under Sponge. So that's pretty cool. This server is being run by Sponge, not Bukkit, not Spigot, and it's not just the default old server. Okay, so let's actually make a plugin. Now you'd think that it would be simple, like making a Bukkit plugin, but it's not. Let's go take a look at how to do this. I'm going to leave that open in the background, and over here I want to fire up Eclipse. Now, I tried this before, just making a normal project and then adding the Sponge API to the dependencies and then writing my class and everything, and it was giving me weird errors. I don't know why. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to do new project, not Java project, but project, and there we go. We want to go down to Maven. If you don't see Maven, you might not have the Eclipse Maven plugin installed, so make sure that you do. And we're going to say Maven project. Maven is another dependency manager, kind of like Gradle, but this is just going to manage the dependency of Sponge API on here. So hit next, and we want to check create a simple project, skip archetype selection, and use default workspace location. Keep that checked and hit next. The group ID is going to be, well, between group ID and artifact ID, that's going to be your package. So the group ID is going to be, for my case, me.pogo. That's my group. And the artifact ID, we're going to call this one Hello Sponge. And this is just going to be a plugin that will, say Hello Sponge when you run a command. For version, you can just leave it like that, or you could write 1.0 or whatever you want to do. And then for packaging, we of course want a jar file. And then let's just give it a name. We'll just say Hello Sponge and hit finish. So you'll see right there it's creating the project, and there it is. This is the setup of a Maven project, and all you need to worry about is the src/main/java, and in there we're going to create our package, and that will be me.pogo.hellosponge. And then we're going to create our class, which we'll call Hello Sponge. So there's our class, and that's in the correct place where we want it to be. Now, we need to actually add the dependency. Right-click on the pom.xml and choose Open with Text Editor, not Maven POM Editor, but Text Editor. And you're going to want to go to this link, adding Sponge API dependencies. It will be in the description below, as will this link to the GitHub repository. And you want to copy this Maven part right here. This just establishes the repository where you can find where you can find Sponge, and then the actual Sponge dependency that we have. So right between name there and project, before end project, you're just going to want to paste it in there, and the tabbing is a bit off, but you could go in and tab every line. It doesn't make a difference. Okay, so you'll notice for a second that this Maven dependencies thing just showed up, and look what's in here. There's your Sponge API, and there's all of these other things that go with it. So we've established this dependency on the Sponge API, so we can now use it, and we don't have to worry about getting errors. So now we're going to write the actual plugin. We have the project set up correctly, so we're going to look at the actual plugin. So Sponge is a lot different than Bukkit, and the first thing is that you don't have a plugin.yml file. You don't specify the information about the plugin in a file. You actually specify in the main class. And you do this by using the plugin annotation. An annotation is just this little sort of thing that goes above a class or a variable or a method, and it just explains something. I will make a video explaining annotations, but all you have to worry about is that this is a plugin annotation that applies to this class. And if we look at it, it says that every plugin will have an ID, name, version, and dependencies. So we actually don't need the dependencies part, but first we have ID, and I always say for ID me.pogo.hellosponge, so whatever your package is. Then we have name, and the name is HelloSponge. And then we have the version, which I'll just say, I guess it's 0.0.1 snapshot or 1.0 or whatever. But this specifies the ID, name, and version of the plugin. You write @plugin, and then in parentheses, ID equals me.pogo.hellosponge, name equals HelloSponge, version equals 0.0.1 or 1.0 or whatever. So that specifies the information about the plugin. That takes over part of the plugin.yml. The other part, or there's permissions part and the commands part, and we're going to look at that right now. The first thing that we need to do is, instead of using onEnable, we actually use an event called called initialization. So we have an initialization event that is called when the plugin is initialized, and that's where we need to register our commands. So the way you do this is you use the subscribe annotation, which is like the event handler annotation in Bucket. And again, this is another annotation, @ right there. And we'll call it public void on initialization. And this is an initialization event, and I'll just call it E. So we want to import org.spongepower.api.event.subscribe, not the Google one. And you'll see this looks very similar to an event in Bucket. And it is, except instead of onEnable, we have this initialization event. So now we need to set up information about our command. So you do this by instantiating by using a class called command_spec. So I'm going to call this instance hello because our command is going to be hello. And you go like this. You say command_spec.builder. So this uses the builder pattern. And then the information that we need, we'll go for description. And you'll see that description is a text, and you'll see that text is referred to a lot. All you have to do for that is write texts.of, and then you can write your string. So the description will be says hello. That'll be our description. And then the executor, what's actually going to execute it. And it takes a command executor. It's going to be this. And then finally, build. And if you look in here, you'll see that there are other things. You can talk about arguments or children, extended description, all of these things, permissions, and we will get to that eventually, but this is just supposed to be a very basic video. So, first of all, just to get rid of this error, this needs to implement command executor. This is sort of like in Bucket, command executor just has this abstract method for executing a command. So anything that implements command executor is in charge of executing a command. And we're going to fill this in a second. Okay, so we create this command spec, this information about a command, spec for specification about the hello command. And now we need to actually register it. So e.getGame, this represents the game, and it has a bunch of things in it. The event manager, the platform, the plugin manager, there's the scheduler, there's the server, and all of these different things. The thing that we care about is the command dispatcher because, we're registering a command. And we're going to use register. It takes an object, a command callable, and then a variable arity string array of args. The first part, the object, is just going to be this. It's going to be whatever this is acting upon. This is the command executor, so we're just going to say this. And then the callable is hello. The command spec all the information is in the variable hello, so that would be hello there. And then all of the commands that hello would be associated with, and that would be just hello. This is where you can specify different other aliases. So if you wanted H to do the same thing, or hello sponge, maybe we'll do that. So hello or hello sponge will both trigger this hello command. And finally, we need to go down here to the execute. This will be called when a specific command is executed, but the important thing is that it will only be called for this specific command. So I said that the executor for the hello command is this. So this execute method will only be called if hello or hello sponge is executed, not for any other command. And this is interesting because then you can have different classes. Each class can, each command can have its own class that is a command executor. And of course we'll look at that eventually. So here you'll see you get two things. I just want to rename these in camel case: command source and command context. So command source is like the sender, the command sender in Bucket, and you'll see it has a bunch of things in here: the name, the permissions if it has a permission, and then of course sending a message, which we're going to do. And then there's the context, which again, checking for permissions. Not terribly helpful when we have the command source. But then there's this stuff: get all, get one, has any, put arg, all of that stuff. And that has to do with the arguments that go in the command. And of course we'll worry about that later. For now, all we're going to do is write command source.sendMessage, and you'll see that it takes a variable arity array of text. So we just do texts.of and then string content. So the message, we want to say hello sponge. So it's going to send the hello sponge message. And of course we see this needs to return a command result. So if we do command result, you'll see there's empty, success, or builder. So you can use the builder and talk about the things that happen, how many successes there were, what things were affected, and all of that stuff, just to be very specific. But we're just going to go success because it worked without an issue. So command result.success with the parentheses. So this is the this is the most basic plugin pretty much that you could write in Sponge. And I should say that they're actually called mods, or, well, I shouldn't say that because I guess it says plugin right here, but this is the most basic plugin or mod that you could possibly write. We have this onInitialization event, and again, this works like an onEnable, and here we create information about the hello command, and then we register the command to hello or hello sponge. And then here's the actual implementation of the command. When it's run, we just send hello sponge and say that it worked successfully. So let's export this and run it. It's not quite as simple as right-clicking and choosing export. What you need to do is go right here, choose Run Configurations. So you're going to click on this arrow, choose Run Configurations. And I actually had that from my testing before. But you're going to choose, you might be somewhere here, Java application, or you might be on main, whatever. You want to click on Maven Build right there, and click New. Because remember, we used Maven to manage everything, so we also need to use Maven to build. So this is going to be a new Maven build, and first we need to browse workspace, and you're going to choose Hello Sponge, or whatever your Maven project is, and you're going to choose the project, not anything under it. You're going to choose the actual project, and hit OK. We'll also name this configuration. We'll call it Hello Sponge, and under Goals, you're going to write Clean Install. That just tells Maven that we want to install it and all that. Everything else here is fine. So hit Apply, and then hit Run. And you're going to watch it right here. It's going to say it's building Hello Sponge. and it should be pretty quick. You'll see it said build success, and it only took 2.8 seconds, so not bad. And where exactly did this build? Well, we're going to go to... Okay, we'll just, I guess, find it ourselves. So this was in my workspace. You want to find your workspace, and then you want to find your project, like Hello Sponge, and then you want to find this target folder. And if you look inside the target folder, you'll see, boom, there it is, Hello Sponge 0.0.1 snapshot. That is the exported file, weighing in at 3 kilobytes, which means that it doesn't have all of Sponge inside of it. That's important. But there is the Hello Sponge plugin. That's the fully exported plugin. So I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go back to my Sponge server. I'm going to go to the mods mods folder, which is like the plugins folder in Bukkit, and I'm just going to paste it in there, just like that. You can't reload the server. You'll see that reload is an unknown command, so I'm going to have to stop it and then run it again. And of course it's going to take about 15 seconds to start up. I guess it's a little bit slower than Bukkit, but it's okay. So it's starting up the Minecraft server, and I want to see, it's searching the mods folder for mods, and it just said it identified 5 mods to load. The default is always 4. Here's the mods, MCP, FML, Forge, Sponge, and then there's our Hello Sponge. I guess you could name the ID to just Hello Sponge without the me.pogo part or whatever, but you'll see that it clearly recognized it. And we go through, and it's done. 2 seconds, it says. And that's actually not that bad, because there were no errors. So let's connect to the server. And there we go. Might be... Oh yeah, so, 9. Excuse me. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. So, now we are actually back into our server here. Let's go ahead and run it, and it should work just fine. So I'm going to say /hello. And there it is, Hello Sponge. There is the plugin that we just wrote. You'll remember that I said when the server initializes, I want to register the hello command or Hello Sponge command to that executor that I wrote, and it did. It registered the command, and when I tried to run it, it knew where to find the implementation of that command, and it did it, which was just to send the message Hello Sponge and then return successful. We'll notice that if I do Hello Sponge, it did it a second time, because both Hello and Hello Sponge are registered. So you can have aliases in case people get confused about commands, or just have multiple ways of writing the command. So that is all for this video, which is actually very, very long. I apologize for that, but we set up the Sponge server, and then we wrote a sample plugin for Sponge. And you'll notice that it's similar to Bukkit, and if you understand how Bukkit works and all of those basic things, then this shouldn't be too difficult. But there are some major differences, as you can clearly see. So it will be useful in this series to pay attention, because there's a lot of things that are different. So, as always, subscribe if you want to see more. Comment with what you want to learn. If you like this video, click the like button. And I'll see you guys soon with some more Sponge and some more coding. Bye for now.